time, mi gente? Welcome back to another episode of the Global Latin Factor Podcast. I am your host, Crispin Valentin, where we talk about Latino everything. Thank you so much for being here. And if you would like to be part of the Global Latin Factor community, it is very easy to do so. You want to know how? All you got to do is subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. And make sure you check us out on the audio. Big shout out going out to all my audio individuals that listen in, tune in on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We appreciate you. In this episode today, we're switching it up with another solo episode. We are talking about food. Yes, another Latino food contribution to the world, especially all over the world. And we're specifically talking about squash, an ancient food with deep roots in Latin America. If you're thinking squash, like really? But trust me, believe me, this humble and amazing plant has been feeding our gente, our people, for thousands of years and continues to be a staple of Latin America kitchen today. So grab yourself a snack, a pepita, you're gonna learn about that. Sit back, relax, and check out this amazing episode, this amazing, fascinating history of squash and how it has shaped our cuisine. All right, so let's get started. And again, thank you very much for being here. In the beginning, squash is actually one of the oldest crops ever cultivated in human history. It's dating back all the way to 10,000 years. Yes, 10,000 years. Archaeologists have evidence and shown squash that was grown in Mesoamerica. So if you know where Mesoamerica is, of course, basically is Mexico and Central America. That's wow. The early versions of squash, though, did not look nothing or taste nothing like what we eat today. No, not at all. It was smaller, had a thicker peel, and it was super bitter. But over time, our indigenous people selectively bred squash to be a sweeter and easier to eat. Would that be considered the earliest GMO? I don't know. You tell me. There's a lot of cool facts about squash. It is part of the three sisters, if you know about that. That's in agriculture: corn, beans, and squash. When you take these three crops together and you plant them together, they help each other grow and provide a balanced diet. Not only that, but the corn grows tall, giving the beans something to grab on and climb to, and the squash go deep and long, and that pretty much covers the ground, keeping away weeds and moisture in the soil. Ain't that genius? How do you even figure out how to put all these three sisters together? Now, let's talk about different types of squash that you will find all over our Latin America and our Latin America kitchens. First up, we have calabaza. This is a lot of people, when you think of calabaza, the first things that comes to mind is pumpkin or squash. Yes, calabaza. Super versatile. You can find it in soups, even desserts. One of the classic Mexican dishes is calabazas en tacha, which is basically candied pumpkin cooked over brown sugar and cinnamon. Perfect for Dia de los Muertos. Then there's chayote, a green pear-shaped squash that is super popular in Central America. You can eat it in a raw or raw salad, throw it in a soup or stir fry it. Light, refreshing, and packed with nutrients. Next, we have calabacita or zucchini squash, probably seen and used in dishes all over the place, but one of the most popular is calabacitas con elote, one of my personal favorites, which is cooked with zucchini, cooked with corn, tomato, and you know me, I don't do cheese, but if you prefer, please add the cheese and a little picante. It is simple but delicious. That's perfect as a side dish or even on its own with some frijoles and some homemade tortillas. Ay, delicioso, like my little nephew says. Oh yeah, and you cannot forget about flor de calabaza, squash blossoms. This bright yellow flower is a delicacy in Mexican cuisine. If you've never had a quesadilla of squash blossoms, what are you waiting for? You're missing out. I don't know if you even lived, if you never had one of those, and if you're a Mexicano especially, please do yourself a favor and try it today. So, how do people actually use squash in Latin American cooking? Well, let me tell you all about that and show you how it actually is all over our tradition and dish. In Mexico, you have caldo de calabaza, which is a comforting pumpkin soup, especially popular during cold months. And if you ever had pipián, you already know you had some squash seeds. Pipiáns are actually squash seeds. Pipián is a type of mole sauce made with roasted pumpkin seeds. It's rich, it's nutty, it's absolutely delicious, and I highly recommend it to try it today. My mouth is just watering thinking about some pipián. Moving down, Central America, squash is a key ingredient in heavy stews like sopa de res or beef stew, loaded with veggies. In South America, especially in Argentina and Chile, they use butternut squash, pureed and roasted dishes, and it's amazing. And in Peru, there's a traditional Andean stew called locro, which combines squash, potatoes, corn for a heavy, warming meal. Even in the Caribbeans, you'll find that squash is a big deal. You'll find a sweet dish like pumpkin flan, or even fried as little fritters. It's amazing how much a simple ingredient can be used in so many ways across our culture, our beautiful Latin culture, Latin cuisine. Now, here are some fun facts about squash that you might not have known, and I'm gonna tell you all about that. Let me know if you do know them on the comments. First off, squash isn't just good, it's good for you. It's loaded with vitamin A and C, plus it's got plenty of fiber to keep your belly full. And don't forget about the seeds, pepitas, which is a great source of protein and healthy fats. Whether you roast them or as a snack or grind them into a fine sauce like pipián, they are a big part of our Latin culture. And beyond food, squash is a cultural significance too. In Mexico, for example, calabaza en tacha is often used in altars in Dia de los Muertos as an offering for the dead. It's one of those foods that connect us not only to our ancestors, but to our traditions. Here's another fun fact. The word squash actually comes from the Nagaset Native American word that is akutashquash. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, which means eaten raw or uncooked. Just a little reminder of how deep the roots of this amazing plant are and how deep they go. All right, mi gente, this wraps up another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. Thank you very much for being here. Who knew that squash could be and have such rich history and play a big role in the Latin American cuisine, right? I'm just saying. Now, if you've learned something new today, let me know in the comments, or if you are inspired to try squash recipes, or if you did not even know that pepitas actually make pipián, leave me a comment, let me know. You can also get a chance to win a shirt, Global Latin Factor shirt. Now, hit us up on all social media platforms, subscribe to the channel, join our Global Latin Factor community by subscribing. It's very easy, and thank you very much. Please share this episode with a foodie, a food lover, so you can let her know the history and the importance of this amazing vegetable, which is squash. Now, this was another episode of the Global Latin Factor podcast. I am your host, Crispin Valentin. Thank you so much for tuning in. And remember, we are human. We are just like you. We are the spice in this melting pot that it is the world. Till next time.